Welcome to INOvators, a series where we sit down with thought leaders in the healthcare technology space to talk about the news and trends that are impacting the industry today. My name is Justine Giancola. I'm on the corporate communications team at Inovalon, and joining me today is Kristin Childers-Bushcle, Senior Research Specialist and Program Manager at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. Thanks for being here today, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's start off with talking about data and clinical research and how those two go hand in hand.
Absolutely. So data and clinical research really are an important part of the process. Neither one can exist without the other, really. Data in clinical research not only helps us to answer the questions that we have or test our hypotheses, but help to drive better outcomes and evidence-based recommendations for answering those questions. Data can also help us with enrolling more participants, hitting our criterion for our study design, and again, just developing those meaningful insights for better health outcomes for all.
And talking a little bit about diversity here. Diversity among participants is important. We know this. Can you talk a little bit about why?
Yeah, absolutely. So diversity within research is important because we want to make sure that our recommendations or our health outcomes are targeting everyone, are including as many people as possible, or equitable across populations. When we don't have enough diversity within research, we're not addressing the wider issues at hand. During one of the sessions at Empower that I recently attended, Dr. Rochelle Walensky made a really impactful statement that's been on my mind ever since I heard it. She said that if you ask AI who needs more healthcare between white populations and Black populations, it will say white populations because that's the data that they have. That's a really impactful statement, and I think it really speaks to the issue of lack of representation within research. The more people we have involved in research, the more data that data-driven investigators have access to that really address wider populations, the better outcomes we can have for everyone involved. And that's not just, answering small, tiny questions that's really representing, wider populations as a whole. So it's vitally important that we have diversity in research to help address some of these issues.
Absolutely. And you mentioned access in there quite a bit. So having access to the data helps engage those other populations, but tell me a little bit more about that. How is that possible?
Yeah, so it's not just so much about access, right? It's also about understanding what to do with that data once you have it and how to use that in the best way to hit the numbers that you're looking for or target the populations that you really need. So one thing about big data is that it's not the only answer. When researchers and data-driven investigators really need to work on knocking down some of those barriers. So not just trust, but also a lack of understanding of what research can do for communities and do within populations. Having access to data gives you numbers. It tells you where you might need to go for demographics or what populations you might need to target. It then becomes the responsibility of researchers and data-driven investigators to do the next step, which is going out into the community and talking to people about how research can impact them, how it could benefit them, what it all means, why it's important for them to participate in things like this, really getting down to their level and building that trust up. Because if we just have numbers, that doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't address absolutely everything. So when it comes to research and data, it becomes almost symbolic relationship, a partnership, if you will, to work together and address some of the barriers, some of the issues that have been prevalent for years, and start making things more equitable across all populations.
I'm sure that breaking down those barriers and building that trust has certainly been a challenge, but do you have any examples of a time where you've been able to do it successfully?
Yeah, absolutely. So to build trust, transparency is key. Data-driven investigators should provide clear information about how the data will be used, how participants' privacy will be protected, and what ethical standards are in place. By fostering an open dialogue, we can help alleviate concerns and empower participants to make informed decisions about their involvement within research. In the clinical trial I'm currently working on, our team realized that underrepresented populations often face some pretty big barriers to participation, things like limited awareness, access issues, and just being unfamiliar with the whole research process. To tackle these challenges head on, we partnered with local community organizations so we could engage directly with those historically underrepresented groups. Our outreach and recruitment efforts were specifically tailored to meet their unique needs. For example, we offered remote and virtual research appointments to give people more flexibility if they didn't want to come into the hospital. We also scheduled appointments on weekends and late evenings to better accommodate everyone's busy lives. Plus, we created recruitment materials that were clear and easy to understand while ensuring that they followed all the regulatory processes and contained the essential information about participation. We shared these materials with our participants through a mix of digital and traditional formats to reach a broader audience. So thanks to these comprehensive efforts, we successfully recruited a diverse group of participants for the clinical trial. And this not only enriched the overall study, but also helped to build lasting relationships based on trust and transparency within the community. By sharing these experiences, I hope to inspire others in our field to take proactive steps towards promoting inclusivity in research. We paired these engagement strategies with a solid data inclusion plan, which really enhanced our project and led to great outcomes. I feel really lucky to be a part of Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, which is recognized as one of the top pediatric hospitals in the nation. Our institution truly embodies the spirit of collaboration, bridging that gap between our research efforts and the wider community. The guiding statement at Cincinnati Children's is changing the outcome together, and that reflects our commitment to impactful research. And I've seen firsthand the unwavering support our research team receives. This environment not only helps us achieve our research goal, but also builds meaningful connections to make our work more relevant and impactful.
That's wonderful, Chris. Next, can you tell me about one of your most memorable studies or trials that has really helped drive positive outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our current clinical trial, we were able to enroll a minority majority, which is fantastic. We had a lot of diversity within our population pool. Again, fantastic. We were really excited about that. One of the things that I heard during our study appointments and throughout the clinical trial was participants would say to us, I never would have participated in this if I hadn't received the information I did or learned about it, or you guys hadn't come and talked to us about it and encouraged us to enroll. We had several participants who said, I've never participated in research before. No one's ever offered me this opportunity before, but I'm really glad I did. It gave me a lot of information. It's been, really fun to do. And that for us is just a fantastic thing to hear. It really drives home that what we are doing is impactful and could lead to some potential outcomes that would help this community and encourage other people who would normally have an opportunity to participate in stuff like this to do more of it. So again, hearing that you're giving someone an opportunity they've never had before that is leading to hopefully, potentially better outcomes for everyone involved is just icing on the cake. It's fantastic. And it makes the job, fun and memorable to come do each and every day. And makes talking about it to others and really hitting home about why this topic is so important, why we need more representation in research, that much more impactful.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that there's this focus on outcomes and people and the patients at the end of everything that we do. In a lot of these conversations, we get so caught up on the technical components or the data. And so remembering and reinforcing that all of this is for that end goal, that patient at the end of it, I think is so critical. So thank you so much, Chris. It's been great to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
And thank you, of course, to our audience for tuning in. Be sure to check out our next episode of INOvators.